This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we're in the back of the vehicle. It was like that much water in the basement. And the fire was covered, you know. So
That's good.
a table or a pallet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 4.5 inches around here.
I don't know if my gauge is in an unusual spot, but we had over 7 in our.
Whoa, really? Wow.
Yeah, I thought the official recording was like 4.7
Yeah.
4 hours.
in 4 hours.
The church, we've got the big, the downspouts come out, the big holes that comes out of it. It was pouring out like a fire.
Yeah.
It was just. shooting out.
27.
Never seen, one of them I've never seen it shoot like that, in that.
Strangled every toad in the county. Poor feller.
Down river now. Some leaks in the pipes from the.
Oh, for sure.
But as much water, more pressure on this than normal,
Yeah,
normal rain.
yeah.
It was dripping right onto it.
Really?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
good.
I mean, it was dead center of where it was leaking. Might as well just burst it. My wife was driving back and it was like, I didn't see it.
Yeah, at our office, it was over the intersection called.
Luke sent me pictures. He's in the BOK there. He's in the loan department BOK.
Oh, yeah, it was over they had the intersection closed.
Yeah. All right, we lost Patrick, but go ahead and call the meeting to order. 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the July 2nd DeSoto City Council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Tripp,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Michael,
Present.
McMurray,
Here.
Lane. Mayor, it appears Councilmember Lane is absent.
All right. I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Our first item tonight's our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approved the minutes from the June 20th City Council meeting, approved pay ordinance number 976, approved temporary use permit for Force of Nature car cruise, approved temporary use permit for DeSoto Days, approved final plat for the carriage houses number 14, and approved cooperative agreement with Johnson County. Is there any item anyone would wish to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
McMurray,
Yes.
Mayor Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? All right. Old business, we do not have any, so we will go to item 4A. Consider formation of sewer benefit district for Astra Enterprise Park.
All right, council, I provided you a memo in the packet. Kevin Wimpy is also online if you have any questions about the bonding, but this project was presented to you previously. The good news is now, so essentially the project is $10+ million of sewer improvements that, after they are complete, will be dedicated to the city as public sewer. The good news is that now the deal in front of you is for the city to issue special obligation bonds, and that does not affect the city's credit. If there's a default, that's not on the city. So essentially, what you are being asked to approve is a petition that was submitted by Sunflower Redevelopment. All of the landowners that are part of the district have signed off on the benefit district, including Clearview City. So essentially, the city's sort of skin in the game is $1 million towards the sewer improvements, and then also as part of the development agreement, the city has agreed, if necessary, to use its eminent domain powers for any needed easements if it comes to that. So that's really all I have. Be happy to answer any questions you have. And obviously the applicant is here in the room. They may want to present something to you.
Okay. First, before we do that, any questions for Patrick on his synopsis from anybody? All right. Bob, John, anything you want to share?
Nothing to add.
Okay.
If you have questions that you have, or if you appreciate me giving any further explanation, I'd be happy to do so.
Okay. All right. Any questions at all then from council or a comment?
What do we have as far as the property owners that are included in the benefit district as far as agreement to it, or are there any
Yes,
that are not?
So, Bob, what I got from Bob was the original, the petition, and all of the landowners have signed off. So their original signatures are attached to the
Okay,
petition.
so it's 100% buy off on that?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Are we ready for a motion? Oh, first item would be approve resolution 2043 establishing the improvement district.
Yep. And approving the petition that, like I said, we have
Okay.
here, the original. And that'll be recorded.
So that would be one action, approve the petition and approve resolution 2043.
Yeah, the resolution actually
Is
approves
it-
the petition as
yes,
part of the
okay.
recitals.
All right.
All right, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2043, approving the petition and establishing the sewer benefit district serving Astor Park and other adjoining properties.
And I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
McMorran.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. So now we need to consider ordinance 2617, authorizing the development agreement and our contribution of $1 million towards the project.
Correct.
Any discussion or questions regarding this part? Or a motion to approve?
Someone else can.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2617, authorizing the execution of an improvement district development agreement between the city of DeSoto, Kansas and Sunflower Redevelopment LLC, and authorizing the issuance of general obligations bonds of the city to provide funds for an economic development grant to be used in connection therewith.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McMorran,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Tripp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Good. Item B, discuss 2025 budget.
Yes, Mayor, I wanted John to be able to get out of the room before we start talking about the budget.
narrowly escaped. This is kind of our third time we'll be introducing new aspects of the budget. We started with the mill levy supported funds, general law enforcement, and debt service funds. And then at the last meeting, we talked about the water and sewer funds, big revenue revenue supported funds. Tonight was kind of set aside for everything else. So everything else kind of falls into this bucket. Special use funds, or special designated funds. So I want to run through those with you tonight. But we also have, we received in June our final assessed valuation from the county appraiser. Before that time, we were using an estimate that they'd given us back in February about the assessments on the property. And based on those estimates, we were looking at mill rates. We talked about the revenue neutral mill rate that would result in 0 additional property tax dollars collected. We were looking at a revenue neutral rate of about 14.1 mils. So we'd be going from the current 19, whatever it is, down to 14. We got the final valuations, and they're quite a bit higher than we were looking at in February. And that's not the county's issue. It actually was our issue, because the valuation's made up of all the properties that the county assesses and also properties that the state actually assesses. So some of the stuff is state assessed, and those things are things like utilities. I haven't confirmed this with the state, but my strong suspicion, if you look at the state assessed valuations, they went from about 5.7 million last year to 13.44 this year. I think that's mostly Evergy. Evergy's improvements at the substations and just improvements. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. So at any rate, the valuations did go up quite a bit from then to now, and it results in a lower revenue neutral mill levy. So it's currently calculated at 13 mills. Remember when we had that discussion about the mills, or the intent is to meet that revenue neutral rate, but also to advertise for a hearing that occurs later in the event that some snafu happens and we can't quite meet it. And so we talked about what are we going to advertise as that mill levy. We wanted some, we're just kind of trying to split the middle ground there for that. So there on page 2 of the staff report, I've got this chart that I'm showing up here. And this is the tax impacts on residential properties. So we're just looking at residential properties. Commercial properties are they'd be a different analysis because they're assessed at a different rate. So if we're just looking at the residential total number of units, they increase from year over year. Valuation appraised and assessed has increased, and then of course this mill levy impact. So this year for 2024, mill levy 19.8. The average city tax per residential unit in the city, $700. If we look at meeting that 13.78 revenue neutral mill rate, the average tax on the average residential property will decrease to $526. So that's a savings of $178. When we were looking at this last time in June, we were looking at about $150. So that's kind of where that was. And I think the direction we said was for this rate hearing, this notification we have to give to the county, we just kind of want to split that difference. And so the right column on here essentially takes that 178 savings and cuts it in half and equates that back to a mill levy. So that 16.1 mill levy, I would suggest, is the mill levy that we advertise right here, hearing notification to the county. And that's has to be done
The 20th of
the
July.
20th of July. So we could make that final decision the next meeting, but if everybody's comfortable, we'll go ahead and nail that down now. And so Brandon can go ahead and do that. So I want to pause there. Is everybody
Okay.
comfortable?
Any thoughts on that?
More of a question. The 704, that's based on average property value, and do we know, I assume you know, but I don't know if you know the number off the top of your head, what that home value is, in case, for those residents who might be following along.
Yeah, so if I didn't put it on this table. So if you take the total appraised 671 million, who's got a calculator? 671 million and divide that by 2170. I think it's somewhere around 360,000.
Okay.
You have that, Mayor?
I can do that.
Oh,
He's ciphering.
all right, he's ciphering faster than I am.
I know you could, yeah.
What you said,
2170, that's how many units?
309,
Oh,
383.
it's 309, quite a bit lower than I thought.
309.
Yeah,
Okay.
309, yeah.
Great.
And then for next year, that goes up, you know,
And-
you're doing that now.
And so, also, just kind of a point of clarification, you know, because the assessed value that increased, we're looking at that actually coming through this, more than likely, the Evergy improvement is what is now allowing us to pass on this greater
Largely, yeah,
tax
that's
savings to
exactly.
our residents.
That's all of it. That's all the difference between 150 and 170 as
Yeah. No, just, yeah.
connection I'd made, but that's true.
But yeah, I'm very comfortable with this. I think it's smart and prudent to notice at the, 16.1 mils level because, we are dealing with a high amount of uncertainty and that still is, even if we weren't, even if something were to happen and we can't achieve the revenue neutral rate, we are still delivering a tax reduction to our residents, which I think is really important step. And, that also gives us more time to continue to gather information and
Sure, yeah.
in our interesting year of budgeting.
Yep. Okay. Well, is that the
Any other thoughts?
direction we want
No,
to?
I'm
No,
good
I
with,
echo Courtney completely.
yeah,
I think you
and,
summed it up really well.
yeah, and with 16.1, if we do need to do something, it can still be 14.25, 14.5, 15, it doesn't even at that, so.
Yeah, no, it could be, yeah, anything up to that, yeah.
It gives us the flexibility to try and maintain the revenue neutral, but still have options should something.
Very good.
Okay.
We will do that then.
Direction
Yeah.
given.
Does the council need to approve that hearing?
No, it goes out.
Just
There's no motion for
Okay.
that. It's just a notice of the hearing. And then if you did exceed the revenue neutral rate, there'd be a vote on that resolution that would be included in the
Oh,
meeting
right.
minutes. So that's the motion they would make.
Okay. Okay,
This is a resolution to set the hearing.
No, there's no resolution to set the hearing.
Oh, I got you.
There's a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral
Gotcha.
rate.
So this is just a notice to
Yes, yeah, it's just a notice to the county.
let the county know that we're holding a hearing.
Yes, and then the county will then send out a notice to all of the property
All
tax
the
holders
taxpayers within our
jurisdiction.
jurisdiction.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
okay, well, with that settled then, as we've done the previous two times, there's an exhibit to the staff report that's a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet includes, oh yes,
Sorry, one more thing before we move on from this. That notice that goes out to residents is not the most user-friendly
No, it is not.
piece of communication that has ever been crafted. So I'm wondering if we can also maybe request that Whitney does a little bit of outreach about what this, even at this 16.1, what it
Yeah.
really means in dollars and cents to our residents, so
Right.
that when they're receiving this very arduous communication about the revenue neutral rate, that they're also understanding, even if at the 16.1 level, what that means to them. So just knowing
Yeah.
that those notices are going to be hitting mailboxes and,
right.
that may increase anxiety among some residents. I think if we can get ahead of that with some city, outstanding.
Yeah, there's a whole webpage for the revenue neutral, but that still doesn't address in simple for our residents of, it means this, because our residents read headline versions, not whole pages. And at the same time, that also does not include the numbers that we're talking about here of, even with the 16.1, that means you're paying $89 less next year than this year.
Sure,
So
okay.
that's not addressed on that page, so.
Yep.
I agree with Courtney on that, and it's more than just having a page for it, it's actually getting out, hey, there's gonna be a hearing. Even if we go with that, it's gonna be $89 less per home, but the goal is to exceed, or maintain revenue neutral, so you're looking at potential saving of $178 versus what you paid last year of,
Yeah, it sounds like a good opportunity for a billing insert or the quarterly newsletter. I don't remember where we are in that whole schedule cycle. So yeah, we'll,
and even
Or both.
a couple of city Facebook posts kind of addressing it. I
Yep.
mean, pretty much any and all of those above, as far as communicating it well through all those channels.
yeah.
Yeah, because this means residents are getting a tax reduction from the city of DeSoto. And like, that needs to be in the plainest language
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, yeah. That's easy.
And it's,
Good news is
results
easy.
from our economic development. You know, it's an outcome of what they see is happening.
Correct.
Although I don't know if I'd put that the power poles just saved you $20.
No, I think we'd let
There's
that.
4 or 5 folks that would gladly pay that $20.
Oh, I know.
Okay, great. We'll do that. So then, going on to then the special use funds, you know, there's the list of them is there. The Exhibit B in your staff report has that spreadsheet with the proposed budget highlighted there, outlined in red. I've listed the funds here. There's just a few things from a policies perspective. One in particular about transient guest tax I want to talk about a little bit. But just kind of some other policy factors that are throughout the rest of the memo here. So at a decent pace and stop me or slow me down if we need to discuss anything. The refuse fund is actually a revenue-supported fund, but we really treat that as a pass-through. We just kind of collect what we're going to need to pay Honey Creek Disposal's contract, and not a whole lot more. We don't typically aim or strive to keep a big fund balance in that fund. You see we had a bit of a dip in it projected for this year. No rate increase, no rate changes. The Honey Creek contract extends past 25, so really kind of status quo on the refuse fund there. Special Highway Fund is another one. I just kind of wanted to articulate some of these that did have special funding and special use restrictions. So Special Highway Fund, have to use it for road improvements essentially. It's been pretty stable. It's based on population. So as our population goes up, we'll get a little increases. So we've projected some of those increases into the future. If you just look at the fund, it takes in those revenues largely from state transfers, and the only expenses out of the fund are transfers, debt service, and to capital improvements funds. So it's a pretty stable fund in that way. Special Parks Fund comes from revenues from new development when they pay a parks fee, and we also get $10,000 a year paid by Caw Sand, which is now Sahara Sand down off of Gardner Road. Last year we began a $20,000 annual allocation for park improvements to be directed by the park board itself, and so that continues in 2025. So the transient guest tax fund is really kind of the most interesting one. As you might expect, transient guest tax revenues have gone up quite a bit. 22 and before, we would collect somewhere around $30,000 to $35,000 in revenue each year of that fund. In 23, we collected almost $41,000, and this year looks like we're going to be somewhere around $43,000. So it's ticked up. I think it's kind of reached its cap because our 2 generators, and we only have the 2, and they're pretty much fully occupied. And so we don't project it to go crazy unless we get a hotel, and then we'll. But just kind of as a result of sort of a slow buildup of funds over the last really 6 or 8, we have a little bit of a balance. We're projecting a balance. Well, last year we ended the balance in that fund of $40,000. On the revenue side, we budget just a transfer to the chamber and EDC. It's been $36,000 for the last several years anyway. The funds are restricted to tourism and promotion of tourism and development. So we've held for our own purposes about $4,000 just in case advertising or marketing we wanted to put there. I've kept that in the projections, but I would suggest either yet this year or actually allocate an additional allocation to take this fund balance and really kind of provide that to the economic or EDC and the chamber. You know, they're hiring a new executive director, they're hiring a new chamber director, they're in quite a state of transition. They could really use the funding, and I know they'll put it to good use. So my suggestion would be either, with council approval, transfer that amount, and the amount's about $33,000. Transfer that amount now, or include it in the 2025 to transfer to their organization to help them. And then for the out years, we'll just, and I think I said in the staff report, I said 35. The spreadsheet, everything else, grand annually to just keep that going. And so, like I said, I think until we get another hotel, the kind of revenues are sort of capped out, more or less. So that's my suggestion. That's kind of the policy discussion is what to do about this fund balance reserve. Are you okay? Have a one-time additional allocation of $33,000. Is everybody comfortable with that? So I'll pause there for discussion if we could, Mayor.
Comments, thoughts?
I think it makes sense, but I think the only thing causing me pause is it would be great to understand what that's going to, or even have some collaboration with the chamber to say, okay, there's this additional allocation. This is what we as governing body together with you as a chamber / EDC see that as being best used for during this time. So it's not just a transfer, but rather, a point of an opportunity for collaboration kind of again at this unique time for our city.
I was going to say, answer part of that, probably a good portion of this initially is going to be going to salaries, in that hiring of both of those is a higher salary cost than what has been there in the past to make it a stronger chamber, a stronger EDC with quality people in there. That, Mike, you may be able to add more to that too.
Well, certainly. In the transition time, Shelley Milburn's served as the chamber director, and she's brought on some help as well to formulate a budget. They're working with this year's budget, 24 budget, and then also looking to 25. And every intent is to have that collaboration to bring forth this discussion, because this might not be the only need that they have moving forward from a funding support standpoint. I suspect that it's not. And I think it's very appropriate, even if we did want to say this is a placeholder, let's go, budget, let's have it. And there is every intent to do that. They have people targeted, I think. Offers have been made. The hiring process, I'm not exactly sure where it is with either one.
The EDC is accepted.
Yes, the EDC is accepted,
Sure.
but hasn't been hired, not quite yet. But I do know that the intent is, as soon as that person, the EDC person, is the executive level, the chamber would be less executive, I guess I'll put it. Once that person is on board, then I think every intent was to have this discussion, to come here and work with.
That would also be have them come give us updates as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The other thought on it is, the city's been subsidizing the economic development efforts through Shockey to, I just blanked on his name.
Rick
Yeah,
McDowell.
Rick McDowell. And do we essentially reimburse the city general fund from the transient guest tax for that part? Or do we waive that and recognize that, that the city has been subsidizing that out of general fund? With who's been hired, and I think it's public, I mean,
It's not.
It's-
I don't think it is.
he's talking about it, so I won't say it here,
Okay,
but I know
okay.
I know it's, I know he's
It's in
talking.
the conversation out there.
Yeah, well, we are going to get very high caliber economic development representation, and I think that's also going to translate well to fundraising for their budget. I would be inclined to say, let's jumpstart it to make sure that it gets off to a good start. But recognizing that the city's been subsidizing the efforts of economic development for, probably a year and a half now, something to that effect.
Any thoughts to add, Victoria? Okay. Is that enough direction, Mike?
I think it is, yeah. Obviously, we can discuss all this again. We'll package it all up over the next couple of
I think what I heard was we're not opposed to a transfer this year rather than waiting till next year's budget.
I think we need, yeah.
To summarize
absolutely.
what I
Yeah.
got from everybody.
Yep. Okay, great, thank you. All right, the next one then is the electric utility fund. And so, by way of background, this is a fund that started in the mid-90s when the city, its electric distribution to what was Westar at the time, it's Evergy now. That's the only reason it's called Electric Utility Fund. We don't have an electric utility. And so maybe someday we'll rename this thing. But at the time, it was about a $2 million fund, and the use of that is actually restricted. If the council wants to, do away with the fund or in any way make use of it, I think it requires a three-quarter supermajority vote of the council. There's things like that. Starting in 2000, so up until 2018, we've kind of just been investing that money and then taking the proceeds of that investment interest and dumping it over into the CIP. But in 2018, we saw the need for a lot more robust equipment and vehicle equipment and replacement program. And at the time, we were just borrowing funds from the dealer or from whatever funding source we could get and paying those off. So we were paying interest on those purchases. So in 2008, we decided we'd just borrow from ourselves. So we started the policy of borrowing from that electric reserve fund, paying it back in 3 or 5 year terms at an interest rate that was higher than we would get from investing the funds, yet lower than we would have to pay if we financed the equipment. So that's worked out really well. With the fleet from Enterprise Fleet, all of the fleet vehicles, so the pickup trucks, the utility trucks, and the smaller on-road vehicles, we don't purchase those anymore. We're leasing those, so the use of that fund is kind of diminished in the last couple of years. But we still need to purchase the larger on-road vehicles, primarily dump trucks and the big utility vehicles. The contractors' equipment, we call them, like the backhoes, the track hoes, the forklifts, those sorts of things, we're leasing those. So really, in terms of purchases, it kind of comes down to these bigger trucks. So with that as a background, we're proposing in 2025 3 new equipment purchases that'll be used from the electric utility fund. These purchases and the annual payment for those purchases were already included in the budgets that I presented and for the water fund. But they hit the electric utility fund as big expenditures in any given year. So they're all, the new replacement, they're all Peterbilts. I guess we favor Peterbilts now.
Yeah,
over whatever.
those are placeholders. They're prices that we got. We'll go out for a competitive.
Okay. So there's 2 in the streets department, 1 in the water department. We've estimated total price here, total $790,000 for 2025. Annual payments, 5% is the interest rate we've kind of settled on, which is sort of that middle ground between what we could pay. So those annual payments, $182,000 back to the fund over the next 5 years from the street and water So when you chart that all out, you get this sort of year fund balance chart. It's a little different than the rest. The blue is still the year-ending fund balance. The red are the total appropriations for the year. So 23, 24, I think we bought one vehicle in each one of those years, but then 25 we're buying 3. So it spikes up here, that red column. 26 we're not buying any. There is baseline transfers. We still have this transfer back to the capital improvements fund. That's kind of a holdover from what we used to do with the interest on that. So it never goes to zero. There's another one projected in 27 and another projected. And so the green line then is the revenues. So that's kind of how the electric utility fund looks. And then mostly for your information, Brandon has really spent a lot of time. I want to commend him on his work that he did on this the programming of all these fleet vehicles, the equipment replacement. This is in your packets. But this kind of takes every vehicle in our fleet and projects its replacement out over 5 years or 4 years or 10 years. Some of these things last 2 years or 3 years. So he's got that projected, and we've been able to show those and include those in all these 5-year projections. If you're interested, a wealth of information there on those 2 pages. The first page is the rolling stock. So these are the trucks and the utility vehicles, dump trucks. The second page are those the contractors' equipment. So their backhoes, their forklifts, their excavators, things like that. So I really think over the last 5 years, maybe even longer, kind of taken a fleet and equipment that was really outdated and barely hanging on by a thread. With this sort of program, use of the electric, kind of made it into a legitimate sort of asset management long-term. Actually, we got on top of it. We've been chasing this maintenance curve on every one of our vehicles, and we're not doing that anymore. And it's like we're a legitimate organization now with this, so I feel pretty good about that. And I want to thank the council for your vision and dedication to allowing us to do that. I think that kind of, other funds, I think just wanted to kind of touch base. Several other funds there in Exhibit C. You can see kind of status quo on the rest of them. Did want to just remind everybody about the technology fund. This is really kind of for replacing computers and tablets and AV systems and everything that goes along with that. Previous to 2022, all those expenditures were done at the departmental level. So we had computer replacements for the admin department and the streets and the sewer and the water. It was just, this consolidates it all into one. So nothing in particular new there, but it's just a little bit. So for 2025, we're going to total $185,000 in expenses for that fund, and that revenues come from transfers from the other city funds of $177,000. So that was it. That's the end of my presentation. Glad to stand for any questions or discussion.
You must have been thorough, Mike.
Well, good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Next step on the budget, I think we had some impact from the general other discussions and some revisions to make based on tonight. And then the next thing you'll see is kind of what the combination of all these into the budget document that has all the narratives. So if you look through our budget document now, it explains each fund. It goes through line by line what's in these funds and what we're doing this year. And so we'll be putting all that information together. Brandon and Bonnie, largely behind the scenes, have been working hard to get our new budgeting software stood up. The Questica, that's been quite an effort this year. It was the first year for it. Reconciling my spreadsheet with all of that and getting the projections in there. So we'll still be busy, even though you might not see anything at the next meeting, maybe in August, before you see kind of that draft document that we like to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything from the group on that before we
Good.
move on? All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Mike. No executive session, correct? All right, we'll go to advisory reports. Mike?
Yes, Mayor, I did have one item. I emailed the council this morning. At the last budget discussion, we were talking about the water fund, and in 2025, I have 2 new water plant operator positions shown, and Courtney noticed that I had some money also shown in it yet for this year. It's clear that we're gonna need that yet this year. We're currently running the plant, it's probably about 14 hours a day, and we think we're gonna have to take that maybe even up to 20 hours a day or so. With currently 4 operators now, that spreads them a little thin. They would have to do overtime for those positions. So I'd ask your approval to go ahead and recruit, hire for one of those additional water for this year, so we can get that person in here and trained and worked into the rotation for that position. The main kind of limiting factor right now is the well improvements that we're in the middle of, and some, they'll be coming online later throughout the year, but there will be a time here for several months where we need to run that plant for a good part of 24 hours. I'd like, with your approval, to go ahead and start that recruitment and get that hire made.
Any objections to
That is a
hiring?
motion approval or just a?
I don't think so, Patrick. I don't.
No, you're.
Yeah, I
Because
think
of
so.
budget authority to
Okay.
do that.
Like to go ahead and do that then. We'll put it on the website and get the recruitment started. Okay, that was it for
All
me.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
City Attorney, no report. Brandon, Assistant City Administrator, what do you have for us?
Just, I promised you guys an update on the property tax relief program. So after my initial review, we've received 50 applications. There is still a little bit of money left over. The first, I'd say five or 10 were at that $500 consistently. And as we've kind of gone through it, we've seen more modest homes, which means that they're not paying $500 in property taxes, so we're not going to that full $500. There's still about $2,700 left, and we are going to sit down with the committee to kind of make sure that my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed, to make sure that everything's good there. We did have a few applications that I'm holding off on, mostly just small clerical stuff, people not signing documents when they're mailing it in, not giving me full tax returns, that kind of stuff. I'm giving them till Wednesday to get back to me. I've called every one of them and get back to me on Wednesday, basically to make sure their application gets in the review process. But outside of that, pretty successful program. Like I said, there's still $2,700. We'll do another push after the 4th of July, telling people, hey, there's still some money left out here. Please come apply. But outside of that, there's nothing else.
All right, good. Good to hear. Thank you. Council comments. Victoria, anything for the group tonight?
Nothing for me, just hope everybody has a good 4th of July.
Thank you. Rob,
Not tonight.
Courtney,
Nothing tonight.
Kevin.
Quick one. I was hoping Joe Johnson would be here, but I want to, in light of the storm event yesterday, the drainage crossing of 95th just east of Lexington, again, over top the road by feet. Some of you know, Mike, Rick, my son was caught up in that, totaled a car in 2020. So it's a regular occurrence of that. The sheriff did have it blocked on both sides during the rainfall event, but I would like us to figure out, what do we need to do for them? Or why is that drainage crossing a problem? At the time my son got caught in it, it was because the culvert under the railroad tracks collapsed and blocked that crossing, and so it backed up across the road. I'm not sure, it seems to be free flowing.
Yeah, I don't think
Was it clogged? Or is it just the intensity in the
yeah.
drainage area? But it overtopped 95th in the order of feet.
Yeah.
So during the day, if there's ample time, you can see it. And if there's ample time, Public Works has blocked it off before. Yesterday, the sheriff blocked it off. But if it's a nighttime event, which is when the sun went through it, and you're westbound, you come around the curve, down the hill, you cannot tell that road is inundated. And when he got caught in it, it was over the console in the car. So this is deep. So I want to look at, what do we need to do for either fixing that drainage crossing or creating a warning system, something that measures the water depth at that area and has an electronic signal, a lighted signal or something that says, do not cross, flooded crossings. So I'd like to see us give that some attention.
Well, just certainly, yeah.
Yep.
Did we have water over Lexington as well at that box culvert?
I heard reports that there were an overtopping
Well,
of
that
Lex.
whole area, oddly, the timing couldn't have been crazier. I was doing an pre-scheduled tour with our interns when that was going on. I actually waited in town until rain let up, and then it started raining again. There's a lot odd that was going on because of the construction on the southbound Lexington lanes was also channeling water across Lexington, but it was passable.
Oh.
But it wasn't because of the drainage structure. It was because of the grading associated with the road construction.
I see.
Historically, that box under
This
Lexington.
box
has-
here
It did not
has-
overtop.
Did not.
It did not, but it was going across the intersection. But at that point, it's inches deep. It's not
Yeah,
feet deep.
yeah, the 95th Street.
Yeah, the
It's-
city, Public Works ended up sending a skid loader with a sweeper out to clean the road
intersection.
back off.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see us give that some safety attention.
Very good.
Thanks.
good point. I don't really have anything to add. Just remind everybody, fireworks, DeSoto Fireworks, the Good Sam Band concert at the park again this year.
Right, yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think that's it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.